Welcome to the Sunflower Conversations.
We acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians of the lands on which we record, and especially to those who may also be living with a disability. Welcome to another episode where we will explore a variety of non-visible disabilities, the way in which people experience their disabilities, and discover the opportunities for society to make access and inclusion improvements that benefit everyone. Hi everyone, my name is James Dunn and I am your host. And like many of the guests on the Sunflower Conversations, I also live with disability, including myalgic encephalomyelitis, more commonly known as chronic fatigue syndrome, and postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
When some days get a little tough, we'll help you find that sun and lift you up to get you through to your sunflower blues.
On today's show, I'm joined by Yvette O'Dowd. Yvette lives in Melbourne on the lands of the Kulin Nation. Yvette was 32 years old when she first showed signs of multiple sclerosis in 1995. She has now lived with MS for over 30 years and has experienced many challenges on her disability journey. Yvette has provided peer volunteer support to other people with MS and has also written a book about her experiences living with MS. Yvette is a passionate advocate for the Sunflower Initiative and for making positive change for anyone living with a disability. Yvette O'Dowd, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So take us back to 1995. What did your life look like just before you started experiencing symptoms, and what do you remember about the journey from first symptoms to finally getting that MS diagnosis?
It was actually a really significant turning point for my life before the MS. I had just qualified as a breastfeeding counsellor. I was working as a volunteer. My youngest child was about to head off to school. My oldest child was about to head off to high school. I was planning on going back to work and I was busy. I had lots of stuff happening. And then one day I woke up and I had a pain in my eye, and then my vision started to fade. And went and saw the doctor. He sent me to a specialist and they said I had optic neuritis, which is an inflammation of the optic nerve. And although they didn't say I had MS at that stage, the most common cause of optic neuritis is multiple sclerosis. So they sent me away and said, get on with your life. And then I had 2 more episodes of that. And then 5 years after the first episode, I was diagnosed with MS because I had lost feeling in my foot, and that classified as multiple sclerosis. And life changed.
Wow, so that's a really long time between first symptoms and diagnosis. Is that the same these days, or was there something different then?
No. So I had to meet the criteria of 2 episodes in 2 parts of the body, which was then able to be diagnosed. These days, they'd give you an MRI at the first sign of anything. A generation before, they used to put you in a hot bath, and if you couldn't get out, they diagnosed you with multiple sclerosis because that heat fatigue was the diagnostic tool. So we've come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. That does sound a little bit archaic. But you were sort of in the middle, so it still took you
I was in the middle
a lot longer.
Going back to that time, they used to not always tell the patient. So a man might be told that his wife had MS, but we didn't need to bother her with that.
Wow.
Yeah. So progress is ongoing.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you remember how you felt when you first heard the words "you have MS" from your specialist?
Well, I was devastated because everything I knew about MS was that people end up in wheelchairs. My great aunt had it, and that was the only memory I had of her, was seeing her in family videos of films sitting. She was always sitting. So, that was the vision that I had, and I thought, well, I can't, how am I going to live this life? if I'm totally incapacitated. So it was terrifying. And I felt really cheated.
Well, it sounds like you were really excited about embarking on this next phase of life, the kids at school and new work opportunities for you, and it would have hit you for six.
Yeah. And it was so uncertain. Or I think with some disabilities, it happens and that's what it is. And you go forward from there. But I was terrified I was going to lose sight in both eyes. I was terrified that I might lose the ability to walk. There's bowel and bladder symptoms that can happen. There's just so many things with MS. It can be multiple disabilities all at the same time and no ability to know what might happen.
So that unpredictability would have been,
yeah,
very scary.
Yeah, definitely. And still is.
So people often see the visible parts of MS, as you said, if somebody's in a wheelchair or visually deeply affected. But what are some of the hidden battles that people with MS may be dealing with on a day-to-day basis?
If I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times that I don't look like I've got MS, and I often wonder how I'm failing and what I should look like. But I experience all the really common symptoms. So I live with heat fatigue. Yesterday was a good example. I was doing a talk to a group of parents, and I was just awash with sweat, just pouring off me. And then my body needs to rest and sit down, and I've got no control over that. I also get loss of sensation in all sorts of parts of my body, so I'll lose feeling in my fingertips or feeling in the soles of my feet. And then I'll also gain feelings that aren't real. So I might feel like my arms been burned with boiling water. I can tell you exactly what that feels like, even though it's never happened. And my brain is interpreting other sensations and trying to put a picture together based on prior experience. So you get all these random things. The other day I just got this buzzing all down my arm. There was nothing there, but my brain thinks something's happening. So there's all these sensory things. I've lost the ability to taste. I've lost feeling on one side of my face. It doesn't affect the function, so it's different to say stroke where the face will droop, but I'll have no sensation on one side of my face, and that might last for 6 weeks or so and then goes away. And yet I look fine. I am a chronic fainter, spectacularly in public, much to the disturbance of other people. Spend a lot of time lying on the floor going, I'm okay, don't call an ambulance, I'm fine.
Everyone's like, but
yes,
you don't look fine. The opposite of the you look fine.
Yes. When I don't look fine, they're alarmed.
I think most days I probably meet someone that says, oh, you're looking well.
Yeah.
And it's that awkwardness where it's like, well, I don't want to say I'm not because that's just negative, but I also can't say I definitely am because that's not true. So it's just sort of leads to a thanks.
Yeah. It's like you don't realise how much you get asked, oh, how are you? I'm like, if I answer truthfully.
Your energy levels, they're impacted?
Yes, definitely. I don't know if you know about the spoon theory, but we've only got so many spoons we can use in a day. And with conditions like MS, we can use a lot of spoons just getting up and having breakfast, having a shower. If I have a hot breakfast and a hot cup of tea and then hop in the shower too soon, the heat fatigue kicks in. I have to lie down for half an hour before I can get dressed. The energy becomes something that is finite, and so you choose what to use it for. And simple actions that we all do every day can just take everything out of me. So I will choose not to do things so that I can use my energy for other things.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting. I'm now remembering when I was first diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, the specialist said that from an energy perspective, this is similar to MS. There aren't all the sensation issues, or there can be some. But I can completely relate to your spoons theory. I see it as a battery myself, and it just doesn't get charged properly. Has a very small amount of charge each day, and you have to work out what you're going to spend.
And just like your phone, if it's running too many background apps and it drains the battery extra fast, it's the same thing. So if I'm coming down with a virus or something, that'll knock me out. I've just come back from something. I've had a cold for 3 weeks. My grandchildren had the same cold and they were better a few days later. But that just knocks out my ability to do everything from making a meal to getting dressed. There's just no energy for those basic activities of daily life. I've had times when the fatigue's been so bad I can't sit upright. I try and I just have to keep lying back down again. And you can't explain it. It's not like being tired and needing to go to bed and have an early night. It's like your body just cannot function and just needs to shut down.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only relate to that in relation to the chronic fatigue syndrome. And I know a lot of people in that community tell stories of people saying, you're just tired, you just need to take a few weeks off and take it easy. But it's a pervasive, severe fatigue that doesn't go away. And it sounds like that's what you're experiencing. And I guess also that would impact things like your focus and cognition, memory.
Absolutely. Shocking short-term memory. When you've got they send you a code, you've got to take that 6 digits over to the other screen. By the time I get back to the other screen, I can't remember any of the digits, so I have to go back again and try to do it digit by digit. And that my memory was my greatest asset, and it's become my weakest. And it's just so frustrating. Little things like exactly where did I park the car? What day is it? Was I going to see you this week or next week? I used to be able to retain all that stuff. Now, if my Google in my phone doesn't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Everything is written down, isn't it?
Absolutely, everything
that you're going to do is in your notes.
Down.
And
And
it's good to have the technology to cope.
Absolutely, I will get a surprise sometimes. I'll be like, really? Oh, I've got to go to the physio, and I've had no working memory that that's happening today. So I just have to rely on all of those tech reminders, like multiple times. These things are coming up this week, these things are coming up tomorrow, these things are coming up in the next hour. Just repeat. I get lots of surprises.
I'm sure. That's a good positive.
It's a thing.
Have you ever felt any pressure to explain or prove your symptoms to others?
Absolutely. In that 5 years between starting symptoms and being diagnosed, I had just gone back to work and I was working 5 days a week, which was a lot.
Wow.
I was trying to follow like dietary guidelines for MS and increase exercise and all those things. I was also caring for my aging father who needed support, and 3 children and, running a household and all these things. And so life was really hectic. And whenever I mentioned, to people I'd consider to be friends often, they'd like say offhanded things like, oh, you're going to talk yourself into it at this rate, or it's just in your head. Well, it is in my head because my immune system's eating my central nervous system. But, just insensitive, or people trying to be positive and reassuring. But look, even I sometimes doubt it, even with a diagnosis and treatment and evidence. I sometimes think, do I really? because I don't look like someone that has MS. So even I can start to give myself negative feedback. Other people's opinions are very powerful.
So it sounds like there are lots of symptoms and a lot of challenges that you face. What sort of support have you got these days to help you out, given the impact that it is having on your life?
There's a lot of focus on improved living to help reduce MS attacks. So I have an exercise physiologist who makes me go to the gym. I do hydrotherapy. I have regular physio, and I see my neurologist regularly. I've just finished a 2-year course of a drug treatment that I'm told I may not need any more drug treatments for my MS as I'm getting older. Apparently, aging, your immune system's not as good as attacking you as it is when you're younger.
Well, that's
Yay.
positive.
But it's a constant work in progress. Exercise is really beneficial to people with MS, but exercise can create fatigue. It can lead to heat fatigue. Sometimes I have to abandon a session just because I've overheated and I need to lie down. Eating really well is important, but eating lots of fresh fruit and vegetables is a lot of hands-on preparation. And at the end of a very long day, when you're feeling absolutely wiped out, it's easier to have toast. So I have support workers through the NDIS, and part of what they do is I prepare my fruit and vegetables so that I can just cook them, so that I'm not trying to stand there chopping things up. So it's just trying to maximise my energy to do the things that I need to do to keep myself going. So it's like a support team in the background.
Yeah, it's great that you can have that support now, particularly with the NDIS.
Yes.
So obviously there's been lots of challenges, but it sounds like one positive that's come from the experience is that you're pretty focused on your general health that's outside of the MS. Is that right?
Yeah. I decided very early on that I can't control how the MS rolls out, but there's lots of health issues I can control. So I can be a very old person that lives with MS that hasn't died from heart disease, that kind of thing. I guess too, it makes you more appreciative of how important our health is.
Yeah.
So I'm up there with having all screening checks, and I'll take everything that's offered to me because I'm not going to allow myself to get sick with something I might have been able to prevent.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I'm much more focused on my general health than I've ever been. And yeah, I see that as a positive. So what do people who don't live with MS, do you think most often misunderstand about the condition?
I've got relapsing remitting MS, which is the most common. That means you can have a relapse, live with it, gradually fades away, can go back to whatever normal is. Sometimes there's a bit of a deficit. People are often more aware of progressive MS, where it just steadily gets worse and worse and worse.
Okay.
So they don't always understand that I might not be having a relapse, but I still have MS. So all that extra stuff is bubbling away in the background, the fatigue and the brain fog and things there all the time. And the relapses are just when this other thing happens. So when my third grandchild was 3 days old, I lost feeling in the sole of my foot, which I'd had before. But over the coming days, it crept higher and higher and higher. And within 2 weeks, it got to my belly button. So I had no sensation on the whole of my lower body. And that was really scary. I was like, how high can this go?
Yeah.
Will this go away? What if this is now secondary progressive and I won't get it back? That was terrifying. But again, no one could see this because of the sensation. I could still walk. I could still stand. My balance was off a bit because we rely on that sensory feedback a lot. But I was having this private meltdown, and yet it still didn't look like anything was wrong. And I think that's what people don't understand, that it is an invisible disability. It's all happening on the inside, but it's still real.
MS has been part of your life for about half of your life. How has it shaped your sense of identity and purpose?
I was very, very determined right from the start that I have MS, but it doesn't have me. I saw that quote somewhere very early on, and I'm like, that's it. I will not be my disease, and I will not let it stop me doing the stuff that's really important to me. So I'll push through to do things with my grandchildren because they're only kids for a short period of time. I can have MS later. I look at everything as, isn't this wonderful? I'm so glad I get to do this right now because I am aware of this thing hanging over me. And, if I could go back 30 years and tell myself that, things now look a lot better than I was projecting them for, I'd love to do that because I was worried a lot.
Yeah.
And, good stuff's happened. Some stuff hasn't been able to happen. I twice had to leave the workforce because of the way it was affecting my body. So, that didn't roll out as I might have expected, but that's okay. I've done a lot of volunteer work, which I might not have been able to do if I'd always been full-time paid work. So, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, absolutely. And that volunteer work, the MS peer support work that you do, how has that affected your own journey? Has that helped you?
Yes, because I was running the local MS group, which is a whole lot of people all living with the same disease, none of whom have got the exact same disease. Some people are very, very incapacitated by it. Other people have really functional lives. And I think sometimes we can get really bogged down in our own experience and not realise that it doesn't have to look doom and gloom. We had a lovely boy meets girl in my MS group, and they got married, and it was just lovely. They found each other.
Great.
So we offered a matchmaking service on top of everything else. But yeah, it's about, you can sit with a group of people that have the same condition as you, and you can complain about things without people trying to reassure you or make you feel better or downplay it or all the other things that we do when we're trying to make someone feel better. We'll just all sit around and talk about the ridiculousness of this condition. And peer support is exactly that. It's my experience and your experience are walking along together. So let's share it.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you've had such good experiences there, and it is very therapeutic. And I'm sure you probably pick up tips from other people on potential treatments or things that just make things easier.
Yes, even just like, did you know you could apply for this or you could get this sort of help, things like that. I guess it's insider knowledge sometimes. But we can talk about how different drugs have affected us because we do have a range of treatments available now, but you've often got to choose between 2 or 3 that are presented to you, and you just don't know how they might affect you. So talking to people who have used them means you've got a more realistic picture of what it might look like for you.
Yeah, and I think also because there are a few different options around, I find sometimes the sequencing of trying those treatments can be informed by other people in the community. If you
Absolutely.
hear other people saying, look, this one hasn't really worked for me, and you can't really find too many people who have, then you might put that 3rd or 4th on your list of things to
Yeah.
try. And that's really
Yeah.
helpful because trying things takes a lot of effort. And
these are quite invasive drugs. Let's not try, a string of them in a row if we can be more selective about what we take.
you mentioned before about wanting to talk to your younger self. So if someone listening to us today has just been diagnosed with MS recently and is frightened about what their future might look like, what would you want them to hear?
Don't panic. Okay, just take a breath. It's not a catastrophe. And it's a really good time to have a condition like MS. The treatments that we have now, the goal is that you don't have a relapse. Most of them are offering like a 50% reduction in relapses. But the goal is really if you have a relapse, then that drug's maybe not the best one for you, so we'll try a different one. Well, that wasn't even on the radar. We now have some really strong evidence of what might lead to MS developing in the first place. So they're starting to use words like cure or prevention. So it's not what it used to be. And it's scary, but it's not as scary as it was in the past.
Yeah, that's a real positive. Is there something that you can still do today that you once worried that MS would take away from you?
I really was worried about my vision.
Yep.
So by having 3 episodes like back to back, there was a really strong chance that another one would come along and I wouldn't get the return of my vision. That's not happened. I've not had any more optic neuritis
Great.
since last century. So I was really scared that I'm a visual person. So the thought of not being able to see, not being able to read, not being able to take photos, these are things that are really part of who I am. And that was scary. I would have been more comfortable losing the ability to walk than the ability to see, as it turns out.
So you've written a book called Granny Has Wobbly Legs. Can you tell us a bit about the book and what inspired you to share your story in book form?
There's a lot of Groundhog Day in life, and my grandchildren are at the same age spaces and gender that my children were. So I had girl, girl, boy, and my daughters had girl, girl, boy, and they're the same age gaps. And so I found myself explaining to another generation why these things were part of my life, and trying to reassure the children that this is okay and not scary, but my body does some really silly things. And so I focused on describing these things in ways that they would understand. And one that we've come up with that's just become part of how we communicate now is if everybody throws questions at me and demands all at the same time, I describe it as you all throwing ping pong balls at me, because it just feels like I'm being bombarded and my brain just can't cope with that. So I've found ways to explain how I experience these different symptoms, but also to reassure them that it's all a bit funny and it's not something to be scared of, and to just try and normalise it for them.
Yep.
I've explained that, the cable on my charger is a bit dodgy, so the messages don't always get through. Well, I couldn't tell my own children that. So technology's been helpful there. They understand that I need to recharge my battery more often. So things like that have allowed me to help them to understand and to do it without frightening them, because
Yep.
children are scared of what they can't understand. And they're scared of what might happen. They're scared that it might happen to them. And they worry about what nobody tells them. So we need to just be very matter of fact. Sometimes my legs are wobbly. Sometimes my body just overheats for no reason. Sometimes I can't remember what I was talking about. Sometimes I just need to sit down or lie down. And they just understand that that's part of my brain being silly. And I thought, well, if I can help my grandchildren understand, that I can also help other people's children understand what it might look like for them.
That's great. So you've really helped to normalise condition, as you said, so they're not frightened. And I love your analogies there with the charging cable being frayed and the battery. That's a great way of explaining that to the kids.
No, technology has helped me explain it more easily to a second generation. Who knows what I'll be able to use for my great-grandchildren. Maybe I'll just explain to them that this is a condition nobody gets anymore.
That would be great. That's the dream, isn't it? So obviously your peer support volunteering has helped you on your journey. Sounds like the book probably has as well. Just again, part of that therapy for yourself.
Yeah. I've also had counselling with a psychologist to just help to not be angry with yourself for this situation. When you've got an autoimmune disorder, there's no one to blame. The enemy is your body. And it thinks it's doing the right thing. It's just completely misread the situation. So there's no, if you get angry, it's just angry with you, and that doesn't do any good at all. I can be angry at the situation I'm in, but there's no one to blame. I didn't make this happen to myself. Nothing I did or didn't do made this happen. You've just got to be able to work your way through those feelings sometimes.
And it's really good that you've got the support to help you do that, because it's hard sometimes to be able to process those thoughts, and having a third person objectively look at it, particularly someone trained like a psychologist, is great. I've certainly benefited from that as well. So one of our podcast community members has a question, which is, what are your favourite accommodations or accessibility measures that have helped you with MS?
Do you know, it's simple things that may not look like they're disability specific. Gosh, I love public seating.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, if I need to sit down and there's nowhere for me to sit down but the dirt under a tree.
It's raining. That's hard, isn't it?
It's raining. We go places and all the seats are in the sun. Well, now I get to sit down, but I'm going to overheat. So just really well thought out public seating can make such a difference. Air conditioning, buildings that are too hot and stuffy can really feel quite threatening. And I will often use my wheelie walker when we go out for a day. It's amazing sometimes we still have shops you can't manoeuvre around with a mobility aid. And it's not through anything other than lack of awareness. The people who've set those spaces up have no idea that you can't fit through. And I've walked out of shops that I really would have liked to have browsed and maybe bought something, but I can't walk around the space. So just those kinds of things, they're not big infrastructure that needs lots of investment. It's just looking at the world through the lens of someone who might just need a little bit of extra support.
Absolutely, which means you need people who have those challenges involved in that design process. And I think that's happening more. And I'm sure that's the reason why these accommodations are getting better. I absolutely love your public seating tip, and I think it's probably mine as well. And I know one experience I have with supermarkets, I think it's great that they've now had for a few years seating on the outside of the checkouts so that if you need a break, you can sit there.
Yeah.
Great if they had them on the inside of the supermarket too.
Yeah.
So you could have a break while you're doing some shopping.
That's a big walk.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
It's just no one thinks of it. And we need to ask for it. We need to give them that feedback and say, hey, did you know sometimes we need to sit down?
Yeah, it's two-way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can you tell us about your connection with the Sunflower Initiative and what made you feel it was something you wanted to be part of?
I first saw it, someone was doing a promotion somewhere, and I was like, oh, wow, that's me. I embraced it straight away. And it's been really interesting to watch the awareness of it growing. Even last Christmas, we had a local event, and we were going to watch a show in the theatre. And the woman that saw my sunflower lanyard almost grabbed me by the arm and whisked me into a seat. It was like, thank you. Okay. We didn't need to have that conversation. You don't need to explain yourself. And I wanted to reach a stage where everybody recognises that symbol instantly and knows that despite appearances, you might need something extra. You may need to sit down on the train. You might need to sit closer to an exit or sit under the air conditioner, or, you don't have to explain all the why. You can just explain the what. And I think it's just been a really great experience so far.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there with one of the big benefits, which is not needing to explain yourself, which is exhausting, can be demoralising for some people, some occasions, and I think that's one of its big strengths. You mentioned the train there as an example. Has there been any other specific moments where wearing the sunflower made a real difference to you?
I think when I am out and about, and sometimes I will see people look at it and smile, which isn't making any accommodations, but it's just like, I see you and I understand, and it feels like then that person's an ally out in the world. So if I did need support from somebody and I was out without, my family or anyone, that there are going to be people who will be aware of what it is. And if I show signs of needing help, they would be the people to step forward. So I think it's just that it's like a global understanding that not every disability is really, really obvious, and that the ones that aren't obvious are still valid and can be as significant.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right about the goal. I think it is to make sure that the sunflower symbol is as well recognised as the wheelchair accessibility symbol in the future. And I think that's achievable. It's growing rapidly, and I'm sure you experience this as well, that there's more and more people every sort of month that passes that recognises it, give you the smile or come up to you to see if you need help, and it's great. Always our final question. You've given a few examples already, but what's one small change that individuals or organisations could make tomorrow to improve the lives of people with MS or other life-changing non-visible illnesses?
Being aware that looks are deceiving. Just don't assume that everybody is able-bodied. That's all you need to do. You don't need to change your behaviour. You don't have to do anything differently. but just go about your normal life, expecting that, some people are dealing with something that you can't see, and just be kind.
That's a really simple tip, but a really good one. I think, like you've said a few times today, there's some really simple things that can be done and approaches people can take that make a big difference to other people.
There's one simple one that's come in recent years on our train system. There are chairs that are a different colour.
Yep.
So the standard ones are blue and then these ones are orange. And the expectation is that you would give up an orange seat for a person that had additional needs to sit down. Well, that combined with the lanyard, they could put on the signage the sunflower, and then you wouldn't have to even have the conversation, say, excuse me, do you mind if I sit down? That would be part of the awareness, and nobody would have to do anything differently. It would just be integrating that into the existing system.
Absolutely. I think that is the direction it's heading in, and I'm hoping that will happen soon enough. Thanks, Yvette, so much for joining us today on the podcast. It's been great talking to you. Loved your tips, particularly those really simple ones that everyone can be aware of. I love that you haven't made MS become the sort of headline of your life story, and you've got some great tips about how to make sure that it doesn't. I also love how you've shared your experiences with the next generation and you're communicating to them how it impacts you, because I'm sure that will help in their relationship with you, but they'll apply that across the board in life to other people with challenges that they can't see or don't understand. So that's having a real positive impact. So well done on the book. That's great.
Thank you.
And all your support to your fellow MS people over the years. I'm sure that's been having a big positive impact on a lot of people.
Thank you. It's been a ride.
Thank you for joining us for another Sunflower Conversation. Please keep the conversation going via our website, hdsunflower.com/au, on Facebook at Hidden Disabilities ANZ, on Instagram at Hidden Disabilities_ANZ, and on LinkedIn at Hidden Disabilities Sunflower-Australia and New Zealand. You can also visit our website if your organisation or an organisation you know is interested in becoming a Sunflower member. If you would like to submit a question for one of our guests to answer on a future episode, please direct message us on socials or email us at hdsevents@baileyhouse, that's BAYLEYHOUSE.org.au. Please help, have patience, show kindness to others, and join us again soon, making the invisible visible with the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower.